I walk a path paved in the cold stone of inherited guilt. I am a silhouette of ash and cold resolve, wandering the gray mist of the soul's borderlands. My armor is not a shield, but a living chronicle of sins committed in the bloodlines of old, weighing upon my soul like a leaden shroud. I am the ghost of law. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into the terrifying, absolute mindset of the Pale Inquisitor. Just picture that stark visual contrast for a second. A knight dragged down by this impossibly heavy, leaden armor, just wandering through a completely empty, gray landscape. It's the ultimate desolation of the inner psyche. And every single, grueling step he takes is marked by the dull tolling of a spectral bell. So what we're really looking at here is a haunting subversion of the classic Arthurian mythos. The core difference between the Inquisitor and your traditional knight-errant boils down to the quest itself. You know, traditional knights like Percival or Galahad, they're out seeking the Holy Grail, right? They're looking for spiritual fulfillment, to be made whole. But the Inquisitor, his pilgrimage takes him to the Shattered Gate. He doesn't want fulfillment at all. He's seeking a perfect, silent, spiritual vacuum. Let's break this down, starting with Act 1, the burden of the past. Here's where we see the Inquisitor completely flip the traditional chivalric code on its head. In legend, a knight's armor is his identity, his honor. But the Inquisitor has turned his armor into a suffocating, penitential garment. Think about the physical plates of his armor. Every piece of cold stone is literally etched with the names of his failed ancestors. It's a physical manifestation of inherited guilt. He's not drawing strength from his lineage like a normal knight would. It's this crushing gravity he wears like a shroud. He isn't fighting for the future of a kingdom. He's paying a massive, unrelenting debt to a dead past. And you really see this embodied in his leaden banner of absolute law. In medieval heraldry, banners are supposed to fly high, right? They catch the wind, they signal vitality, presence, life. But his standard refuses to flutter. It just hangs there, heavy and dead. It's an incredibly powerful visual metaphor for a character who has effectively killed his own spirit before the battle even begins. Which brings us to Act 2, the Scourge of the Mind. Now we're diving deep into the actual psychological terror of his crusade. This is a space where morality isn't a guide for living a good life anymore. It's warped into a rigid, unyielding mechanism for suicide. Just listen to this definition of a destructive superego in the grim, mythic tone it absolutely deserves. A state where a spirit is so crushed under the weight of an impossible standard that life itself becomes a transgression. That is the Inquisitor. He's the superego made manifest, not a gentle guide, but a martyr draped in the iron-linked chains of absolute law. Psychologically speaking, what we're really looking at here is the death drive, or thanatos. It's an urge for self-annihilation. But the genius here is that the Inquisitor disguises it as a moral crusade to escape the sheer, exhausting burden of being human. And I kind of want to pose this as a direct question to you, watching this right now. Do you ever do this? Do you ever use strict morality as a shield, simply because you can't reconcile the festering wound of human imperfection within yourself? It's a heavy thought. To really grasp this mindset, we have to look at his internal ledger, which is pretty much written entirely in the ink of regret. When you compare him to a traditional Arthurian knight, the contrasts are stark. A traditional knight fights for the kingdom's future. The Inquisitor is busy paying a debt to a dead past. The classic quest is all about finding redemption and returning to society, back to the Round Table. But the Inquisitor's dark path? He only wants erasure and silence. One carries a living, breathing spirit, while the other lugs around a leaden banner. This whole ideology builds directly on those classic Arthurian archetypes. Take Galahad, for example, the ultimate perfect knight. Galahad could look into the Holy Grail and die in a state of pure spiritual ecstasy. Well, the Pale Inquisitor frames himself as the anti-Galahad. He's the dark twin whose only desire is to look directly into the void and achieve a clean, absolute nothingness. You can see a similar flip with the legend of the Fisher King. In that story, the land itself is a wasteland, sick, specifically because the king is sick. The Inquisitor twists this completely. He is the wasteland knight. He's a walking version of that desolation, forever trapped in a cold, unforgiving landscape of his own making, literally sickened by the mere existence of human imperfection. His goal? To purge the chaotic hunger of the primal self. He is on this relentless, sleepless pursuit to completely purge what he calls the silver wolf, basically all the unrefined, messy desires of the human spirit.
And he doesn't just want to manage or tame these instincts. Oh no, he views them as a literal contagion upon the purity of the cosmic design, something that has to be violently cleansed.
Let's move into Act 3, The Black Knight and the Void. The narrative really hits this fervent, obsessive intensity as the Inquisitor finally arrives at the Shattered Gate. Usually in Arthurian lore, the Black Knight is just a physical or moral hurdle you have to overcome, right? But again, the Inquisitor flips the script. He doesn't see the Black Knight as an evil foe. He sees him as a divine architect of purity. He looks at this dark figure as an honest, holy mirror. Because the shadow has no flaws, no messy desires, no sense of self, the Inquisitor truly believes it's the only entity qualified to judge him. It is literally the ultimate theology of nihilism. He steps up to demand the ultimate judgment before the void. He isn't moving through these dark woods to survive, and he definitely doesn't want to conquer the shadow. He wants to be found wanting. He wants every single one of his flaws stripped away by the shadow until absolutely nothing is left but a husk of perfect, law-abiding nothingness. Finally, the epilogue, the final judgment. The deep, tragic irony of the Pale Inquisitor is that his relentless pursuit of purity is the exact fire sustaining the darkness he's trying to erase. A wall built to keep the storm at bay crumbles under the weight of its own suffocating stillness. It perfectly sums up his dark narrative. It just goes to show the totally hollow nature of his burden. He's forever a prisoner of his own unyielding morality, completely trapped by the silence he sought to appease. So I want to leave you with one final, chilling thought to chew on. Does the Black Knight actually possess the purity the Inquisitor seeks? Or is the Inquisitor simply projecting his own desperate desire for an end onto a mindless monster? It really highlights the terrifying illusion of the quest for absolute perfection. Thanks for exploring the shadows with me today, and I'll catch you in our next explainer.